Climate change is the biggest threat facing humanity, and workers are at the front line. From a farmer in Spain to a miner in Poland, climate change affects us all. We are all on the same train. We know changes are needed to tackle climate change, but how can this be done in a way that's fair to all of us and doesn't threaten workers' rights and quality jobs? But we could travel along the low emissions pathway. One where emissions peak before 2020? The only way to give the planet the chance to keep the below 2 degrees goal. The world's decision makers have taken a step in the right direction. Half of the world's countries, including the whole of Europe, signed a climate change agreement in Paris to keep temperature rise well below 2 degrees Celsius and to continue efforts to keep it under 1.5 degrees. To submit national contributions to cut emissions and to increase their ambition every 5 years. To provide climate finance to developing countries. To put in place a just transition of the workforce and the creation of decent work and quality jobs. Transition will bring more opportunities in renewable energy, circular economy products, energy-efficient buildings, and new public transport. Innovation must take place in traditional industries like steel, automobiles, and chemicals. Other industries like coal mining will have to face up to the challenges of change. But if the process of change is not properly designed, it may also bring social collateral damages. A badly managed transition could mean widespread and unplanned job losses, massive hikes in energy prices, rising taxes, and workers' rights to quality jobs cast aside. Social unrest could derail the train. A peak in global emissions can happen soon. Richer countries can support poorer ones, as it says in the Paris Agreement. We need a just transition. That's one that makes sure that the policies that will build a greener world respect workers' rights and does not leave industrial jobs regions behind. Governments and local authorities need to write robust policies that help channel investment into a greener future that ensures workers' rights and that jobs make the transition. We need to learn new skills. We need new green technologies. We need to participate and manage the change our industries must go through. This means social dialogue within enterprises and at regional, national, and sectorial levels, enhancing the social protection system and strengthening our rights so nobody is left behind. Trade unions will be backing workers all the way throughout this change, listening to their concerns, building consensus, and striving to ensure that workers have access to quality, secure jobs. With workers' rights respected and quality jobs, we can keep our train on the green track and meet the climate change goal set in Paris.
This existential threat means that we are on a hard science-based deadline and we cannot afford to lose. The fate of humanity hangs in the balance. If you want to know where business as usual leads, you need to cast your mind back to Hurricane Katrina hitting New Orleans 10 years ago, because that was a glimpse of the future for anyone who cares to look. That's what our current system is built to do. So you had a natural disaster of the kind we're going to see more and more of, colliding with weak and neglected infrastructure.
Climate change is the biggest threat to humanity. And as workers, I think we have a central role to play in how we can combat climate change. I think if we don't take this seriously, fundamentally, I think that it's going to be a very hostile world for us to live in.
Workers understand that we have really dropped the ball when it comes to taking care of the environment. We understand that it's just been a profit-driven economy. There hasn't been any thought at all about long-term sustainability. So workers get it, and we're really concerned, and we know that we need to start making decisions today before we lose our planet.
And we know that there is precedent for coming together in crisis and building a fair society. We know that it happened in the midst of the Great Depression. We know that it has happened after world wars. And we know that labor has led that process of a just reconstruction.
As unions, we've been dealing with these contentious issues for decades, whether or not it's lean manufacturing, speed-ups, downsizing as a result of the introductions of new technology. We've been at the forefront with bringing our members along. So this is really about having discussions with our members. It's about talking to them. It's about empowering them. And we are going to continue to do this on the shop floor. We're going to continue to press government, and we're going to make sure that we have these discussions in union halls across the country.
I think there's so much fear associated with climate change that we think that if we really look at this issue, like it would change everything about our daily work. And I see it really differently. I actually think that climate change supercharges so much of the work that the labor movement is already doing in the fights against free trade deals, in protecting basic labor rights, and in fighting austerity.
This has been the tradition of our movement. It's always been the history of our movement. We've never been fearful of the future. So it is critical for our members to see themselves in this process as a necessary part of how we build a better world and a more sustainable world.
No unions, no just transition, because actually just transition is based on having the collective voice of working people at the table, helping to design the plans that will affect them and their jobs.
I think that there is a very strong connection between the movement for workers' rights and the movement for protecting the natural world. So it's really important, I think, for Greenpeace to hear the perspective of the union movement, which represents working people, and to be part of these conversations about how we can work together in this common cause.
It's crucial then that unions are part of the climate change conversation, because they represent people who are affected by the impacts of climate change and by the changes that we are making.
The topic of just transition is one of the key topics or elements of discussion here in Katowice. It's certainly important for Poland, which is heavily, historically I would say, heavily dependent on coal mining. It's not only an economic issue, it's very much a social issue, because this transition from coal mining to a new type of energy sources, it's also impact on the structure of the society and the way how people live.
With an international deal on climate change, our green train is on track. Now it is time for us to drive it in the name of all workers. The Paris Agreement holds plenty of challenges and opportunities. We need to take part in the governance of the transition to a greener future at all levels: EU, national, sectoral, regional, and in the workplace, to shape our destiny. The rise of new eco-industries and the development of the renewable energy sector are clear examples of how the world of work is changing. We can drive the train by playing an active role in the design and implementation of national strategies for cutting emissions, making sure it is a just transition. Increasing trade union mobilization by reinforcing our ability to act and building knowledge about the green transition will assure social justice and the creation of quality jobs. We aim to support workers and their trade unions through the transition process. Your participation in this process is key for a just, greener and better future. Join us. You can be part of the change.